He was raised by his grandparents from then on, his mother's parents. Oh no, she left the area, moved to Boston. She studied medicine. In time, she became a doctor. Well, that divorce was very difficult for Bill. For the longest time, he had the feeling that his parents hadn't left each other. They'd left him. Well, his grandfather had a very strong influence on his life, and in time, Bill did develop self-esteem. Oh, but then fate dealt him another blow. He was only 17 when he suffered such a tragedy. It was the death of his first love. A young girl he'd met in boarding school. Oh, that put him into a deep depression for, over 4 years. He was inconsolable. He just couldn't be helped. And finally, in desperation, his grandfather sent him to Boston to his mother. And she took him to the best doctors available, and in time he did get through that, but depression, that was to haunt him for the rest of his life. Well, he finished high school in Boston, but all in all, Bill was to stay a Vermonter. He had the strongest feeling about the importance of being a trustworthy New Englander, a Yankee like his father and grandfather. Oh, Bill was dedicated to being a man of his word, a man who could be trusted. Well, yes, I know. You coupled that dedication with the alcoholism later on in his life. Yes, you can see what a conflict there was in that life. Oh, Bill was always breaking his word when he was drinking. But that's the true nature of the beast. It makes liars of us all, myself included. Oh, sure me. Some of the worst lies I told were the ones I told myself. Well, we were to be married when he graduated from college, but his senior year, there was a hazing incident, and his entire class wasn't allowed to graduate. They all had to repeat the year. So the wedding was postponed, set back. But then all of a sudden, everything was set right. Our country went to war. That was the First World War. And you see, Bill's college was military, so he was called up, made a second lieutenant. And that commission served as a college degree, so we got married. I went with him to his first post. It was up on the Cape. New second lieutenant and his new bride. Oh, it was very romantic. It was 1917. Bill was 22. I was a bit older. Well, 5 years to be exact. But that was never of much interest to either one of us. You see, Bill was such a self-assured young man, and I think that, more than anything else, compensated for the age difference. Bill wasn't a drinker when I first met him. He never touched the stuff. Bill's father drank, and he often talked about that having a lot to do with the divorce. He had his first drink in the Army. As I recall, it was at a house party thrown by friends of my father's. That we were there for the weekend. Well, the country was very patriotic. You see, people competed with one another to entertain our fighting men. I'll never forget that particular house. It was the first time Bill had ever seen a butler. It was hilarious. He mistook him for the owner of the house. Oh, well, it was a grand party. We had a wonderful time. Bill got tipsy. Well, everybody got tipsy, myself included. Well, that's what people did. What we didn't realize was the immediate attraction that Bill would feel toward the effects of alcohol, a liberation from certain feelings, certain anxieties. Well, I'm not going to go into that. That was Bill's story. It was always much better told by him. Suffice it to say that that was the start of 17 years of sadness and ultimate tragedy. Yes, familiar to us all. Oh, let's don't dwell on those memories. I think it would be much better to concentrate on the triumph of that whole experience. The climb from the brink of oblivion for both of us. Oh, my, that was a long time ago. It seems like yesterday. Bill took his last drink on December 11th, 1934. That's when he entered Towns Hospital for the last time. Last time as a patient, that is. And it was there that he had a spiritual experience that just totally removed from him his alcoholic obsession. And it was there that he decided to dedicate his life to helping others like himself. And it was there that I was invited to make that journey with him. I can honestly say, at the time, I wasn't very enthusiastic. Oh, I'm not a very good storyteller. Have I mentioned Ebby T? Oh, well, then I am sorry. Without Ebby, there wouldn't even be any story. Ebby and Bill were old friends from boarding school days. Ebby knew Bill long before I did. And they were very close, drinking buddies. It was Ebby who got Bill to contact the Oxford Group. He became Bill's sponsor. Oh, that was long before sponsorship was in use. Bill was on a terrible tear. He'd fallen off the wagon after 2 months of hard-won sobriety. It was an awful binge. We weren't speaking. I was at the end of my rope. Well, yes, I'd been there before. Many times before. You see, on Bill's last visit to the hospital before this binge, his doctor, Dr. Silkworth, had told us both that Bill was doomed if he ever drank again. That's what kept him sober for those 2 months. And then, again, on a golf outing, he slipped. He got falling down drunk. And for the first time in his life, he became frightened. Frightened of himself. After that experience, he wouldn't even go out of the house. I don't know where he found the money. Every single day he had his bootlegger drop off enough to keep him drunk. And I kept my distance, waiting. Yeah, I'd done that before. Waiting for the collapse. And that's when Ebby showed up. On the devil's day off. Oh, thank God. Yes, indeed. Thank God. Some months before, Ebby had been in the same shape Bill was in. He was arrested after an automobile accident, and at his hearing, some of his friends showed up. They convinced the magistrate to release Ebby to their care. They were groupers. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the Oxford Group. The OGs, that's another name they went by. We went by. Anyway, Ebby was staying sober by following certain tenets of theirs, certain ideas, as Ebby put it, peculiar to them. Actually, they were ideas that could be found for the most part in the good book, in the Bible. The Oxford Group? Well, that was a fellowship of men and women who gathered together for spiritual solace. It was started early in this century by a Pennsylvania minister. His name was Frank Buckman. Frank B., he preferred to call himself. Oh, Bill thought that was a wonderful idea. It showed just the right touch of humility. Initials instead of last names. No, it didn't have anything to do with anonymity. No, that was to come much later, and with good reason. Well, the Oxford Group failed at first in this country, but it became very popular in England, at Oxford University, and hence the name, the Oxford Group. That's another thing we adopted for our use, the word group. Their program. Well, it was really very simple. Acknowledge your dependence on God. Examine the circumstances of your life. Recognize your faults and share that with another person. Make restitution for the harms you've caused. And seek further guidance from God through daily prayer and meditation. And finally, this was the purpose of Ebby's visit. Try to find a way to help others to find what you found for yourself. I know, at first it seems an impossible task, but it can be done.